Well, I don't know about you, but most of us suddenly have everyone working remotely. And if you don't have it yet, you're about to. All over the world, in all kinds of companies, remote work is the new thing. And yet, most of us aren't set up for it. So today's show is all about all the things you need to do to address and get your workforce working remotely. Or if you're already doing it a better job of it. Hi, I'm Bill Gallagher, scaling coach and host of the show. This episode is in a series of things dealing with the current crisis that we're all faced with right now. And you'll find this along with hundreds of other episodes on leadership and scaling up at our website, scalingcoach.com. You'll also find downloads of all the tools that we talk about, and we'll even give you a free copy of the international best-selling book, Scaling Up, right there at scalingcoach.com. All right, listen in now as we talk with this expert on the world of working remotely. Well, I'm joined now by Daniel Ramsey. He's founder and CEO of MyOutDesk.com. They're this huge virtual assistant company that takes care of all kinds of people doing this. And I thought Daniel had some great ideas to share with you about getting your staff remote, right? We're all dealing with people who need to work from home. Across California now, it's a shelter-in-place kind of world, and we're all dealing with different variations of social distancing right now that's necessitating homework. So welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thanks for having me.
Nice. So your company actually started back in 2008, just as the last downturn was hitting us. Yeah.
And it's a wild thing. I love to tell people that this company was an accident because what happened, I got married. I'm on my honeymoon with my wife in Guatemala. We're at a Francis Ford Coppola resort, and it's this beautiful place in the jungle, in the trees, like monkeys around. We had a bungalow. Like, it was just kind of a crazy place. And
sounds nice.
My wife and I had been there for a couple days, and the bartender at night was making fun of me. I was on my laptop 1 a.m. doing work like every entrepreneur in the world, just trying to get through the day. And the bartender just looked at me, and in Spanish, she's making fun of me, like, stupid gringo, white guy, beautiful bride in your room, and here you are working, dumb American. And I knew at that moment something in my life had to shift and change.
Yeah. You needed to change some priorities, work a little differently. Totally get it. So talk to us about the creation of the company, the things that you did, what it was like starting back in 2008, 2009. Paint a little more picture of that. That's great.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, at that moment, I realized I needed leverage. And the challenge is most entrepreneurs have everything in their brains, and we call it like tribal knowledge. We just know what needs to happen. We know how we want to serve our clients. We know how to build the widget or do the service. We know, what the marketing needs to look like, how we want our clients served. And I realized if I wanted to grow and scale a company, I absolutely had to pull everything out of my brain and document it. And back then, there just wasn't the video quality stuff available that there is today. And so I literally back then, I just wrote everything down. Like it was like I would vomit onto a Word document and try to be as detailed as possible. And that was my first step in really building a company. It was putting together what we now call standard operating procedures, SOPs, so that others could serve my clients and exactly the way I want them to.
And so you started adding clients, and what kinds of work did you do? What lessons or hardships did you encounter at that time? That was
So most of the entrepreneur clients that we have, we kind of primarily serve businesses, at the $500,000 to $10 million mark. And we have some really big companies that are doing 20, 30, $40 million in revenue. But most of those entrepreneurs come to us because they want more time in their life and they need leverage. And so like me on my honeymoon, they're just overworking and and at some point you start dropping balls, or you have a key employee leave, or you don't have time for the marketing campaign that you wanted to get done. And so at some point there's either a level of pain or there's an opportunity that comes up, and the light bulb goes off for the entrepreneur and they say, I need help. And so that's kind of how we were born. We're leverage, we're talent, and we're a staffing company to help small and medium sized businesses grow and get the things done that you just don't have time to do. And so
Yeah.
we built a pretty big business, being the easy button for talent.
So you started going in with that, and along the way, I'm sure it wasn't easy for you to make it easy for them. And I'm guessing that that's what led to the checklist that we have to share with folks.
Yeah, I mean, look, our clients depend on us for primarily 3 or 4 positions. Like we help people in sales. So if you need more prospecting, if you need administrative support or operations support, and then marketing assistance. So
Yeah.
in today's day and age, every business needs to be out there kind of producing content and top really great content. And so what you're referring to is because of what's going on right now in the world, we're all forced to work remotely a lot. And so we put together something we're calling the Fast Guide to Remote Work, which allows entrepreneurs, business people, and even employees to have a quick checklist of all of the tools, systems, habits that you need in order to be successful remotely.
Interesting. So we're going to go into that checklist in just a second because I think it'll be really helpful to our listeners. But what are you hearing from people the last couple of weeks? What are you hearing from people this week?
Yeah, this week has been, up until last week, literally in our business, absolutely nothing has changed. Zero. Like we were having a fantastic year. In fact, our business was on a 20% plus increase year over year. We were really excited about, what the prospects of the future would have. This week, completely different world. This has been, our clients are concerned, our clients are nervous. So we've been putting out a lot of content, a lot of information to help them through this temporary pause of, what do you do when the entire workforce is now working from home? How do you add value to your clients, to your prospects without sounding cheesy? Like if you call somebody right now and say, hey, I'd like your business, they're going to be like, what are you talking about? I'm at home with my family.
All right.
Leave me alone. And so this week I can't tell you, we've put out more content in this 1 week than the last 30 days to help our clients, our people that are in our sphere of influence and the people we care about. One great example is, right now people are wondering what's open in my local area. So everybody on this show is probably in some way involved in sales. And I think this is probably a tip that would be really valuable to your audience. I'm in Sacramento, California. Bill, you and I are neighbors. You're in Oakland. We're an hour and a half away from each other. But what's open in Sacramento is completely different than what's open in Oakland. And what's open in around the country is just very widely varied right now. So we, as a company, we put together a little local guide for our folks that are local here in Sacramento and said, hey, look, these parks are closed. These parks are open. You can go hikes in this federal land. It's okay. You're not going to get in trouble. These grocery stores are open. These gas stations are open. This is where if you need let's say you need aspirin, this is who can deliver it. This is, in my area, Instacart is the best delivery for groceries right now. So, we put together this fast guide. I'm home. I'm right now. You'll love this, Bill. I'm home right now. I'm wearing 3 bracelets that my 2 little girls made for me because they knew I was going to be on this podcast with you. They're like, here, Daddy, we made this gift for you. This is a whole new realization for an entire country to be virtual. Before this happened, only 2 or 3% of the country worked remotely. And so anything that you can give your database, your clients, your sphere of influence, your vendors, your own employees, anything you can give to them to give them ideas about how to live life remotely. I think that's
how to deal.
That's where we're at right now. So we're focused on adding value to our clients so that they can add value to their clients. And that's what's happening this week.
All right. So let's get into the checklist. So the first step that you've got is about looking at what are your considerations. So talk us through that.
Well, here's the thing. I'm in a mastermind group with a lot of other entrepreneurs, and together we all have, you know, 500 employees or more.
Yeah.
And that means, we're no longer small businesses. We're medium sized to large. I mean, we have one guy who has 6,000 employees. So we started 3 weeks ago when this happened. We started planning, like, what are we going to do as companies? What are we going to tell our employees? What are we going to tell our clients? And so there's a lot of considerations. There's an economic outlook consideration. There's a public health and safety consideration. I mean, there's employees and customer consideration. We've communicated out to our employees, hey, we're here for you. Let us know what we can do, and as well as our customers, as well as our vendors. The reality is we are all in this together. And so step one is, who's my audience? Who do I need to consider? And what are the different things that matter to them? That's step one.
So step one is figuring that out. Then what's next?
Well, step two is simply creating your remote checklist. And we've done that work for your audience. My understanding is we're going to have this in the show.
We're gonna talk through it here, but we will put all this in the show notes and as a download here.
Yeah. And it's really important for entrepreneurs, business. I mean, shoot, this guide is good for employees too. I mean, if you find yourself, let's say you're a normal, person making the average wage in the US, and as well as I do, Bill, right now, staying highly productive and adding value to a business could be the way that you keep your job in this downturn.
Right.
So this can be this is valuable to anybody who is in the world of business right now. But one of the things that the very first thing is find your communication hub as a business. Ours happens to be Ring Central, which is like a Zoom-like platform where you can do instant messaging, you can do text messaging, phone calls, video conferences, assign tasks, send files. I mean, Ring Central, I ought to buy shares in that company because we are using it like crazy right now, and I think the rest of the world is going to experience what Zoom, Ring Central, all these other like online platforms for communication. That's step one.
I think you're right there, and everyone's got a little bit different, and it's not usually just one, right? So, like one of our teams, they're on WhatsApp and Zoom. Other teams are using Google Hangouts or whatever they call it now. So they're using Google services, and some people have got Skype going nonstop. I think it depends on the country and the environment, but you're going to use some combination of things like chat and video, right? And phone.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's chat, video, phone. I'll give you an example. Our office is closed. I have a beautiful third story on Capitol Avenue building, that nobody's at right now. But we still get mail there. So we've been talking about this week installing a VoIP phone there, which if you don't know what a VoIP phone, it's voice over internet protocol, which is basically just a phone that travels through the internet versus a phone that travels through phone line. Right. And so we've talked about putting a VoIP phone there and saying, delivery guys, please pick this up and dial 1-800, our phone number so that we know that there's mail or a delivery so that we're not just leaving stuff, in our front office. But those are the kind of considerations that we went through. Another thing is
you could also probably put a webcam of some kind that you could just dial in and look at, like the inbox. And
yeah, absolutely. Yep. And some other things, before you could go over to somebody's office and just knock on the door and say, hey, can you get me X, Y, and Z? Now, your employees, my daughters might need me at some point. I might have to go on lunch at 2:00 instead of 12:00, or, something might come up where, like yesterday, I'm at home and I'm on the phone, just like you and I are right now. And the lawn guy comes to our house and starts mowing our lawn. Well, guess what? My office is right next to our backyard. So I'm like, this guy's got to stop, So you have to move. or I have to move. Yeah. So we have a task management and assignment platform so that work can continue to go.
Yeah.
Um, and that's an important thing for leaders and for managers to have so that the flow of work continues to go so you can stay productive. That's the win here.
So
Um,
first step, get a common agreement on what communication platforms, voice, video, chat, and then you're looking at getting your phone lines forwarded, and then task management assignment. So you're tracking and looking at accountability collectively, right?
yeah, and that there's a common way to do it. I mean, one of the steps is just and we're kind of skipping one, but I'm start of day and end of day reports. This is a new thing. When you work remote, you don't get to see what others are doing. So in our business, we start with a start of day report. Like, hey, these are the 7 things that I'm going to accomplish today. And then at the end of the day, you do an end of day. Hey, those 7 things, 5 of them got knocked out today and I crushed it, but these 2 need to get pushed and they're going to be for Monday or Tuesday of next week. And that's kind of another way that's different. Is just, there's acronyms like when you leave your desk, you want to tell people, hey, I'm going to be right back. I'm going, I'm taking a bio break, going to the bathroom. I'm
Right.
going to lunch. I'll be back at 1:00. And there's just some etiquette with working remote that most people just have never had to kind of experience before.
Had to think about, right? Well, most of our teams use a daily huddle, but I like this idea where you're doing like a beginning of day, which would be like the huddle, and normally the end of day, the recap would come in the next day's huddle, but in this case, it might be useful to send out something so people have a little heads up. I like it.
Yeah, well, what's funny is we're also I'm checking in with my leaders every morning and in the middle of the day and then at the end of the day. Like right after this call, we're towards the end of the day. I'm going to do the rounds with everybody who has anybody that reports to them. Why? Because the flow of communication up and down in a remote world is so much more critical to success than when you're physically in an office. So
Right.
we suggest, the other thing is we suggest video conferences all day long, all the time. This is going to be a lonely time for some folks. I mean, you imagine those people who get energy from other people, and so we're using video to connect with our clients, connect with our vendors. We're not having tough conversations over phone like we normally would. We are doing face to face on a video chat, and that is also a new reality in today's world.
Yeah. So then we've got the equipment, right? Now, some companies are great. They already have laptops and stuff, but talk to us about the laptop program.
Yeah, dude, oh my goodness. So I've got a good friend of mine. He owns a manufacturing company, and if you can think about manufacturing in California right now, it's not an essential program, and so managers who had desktops are like, well, what do you want me to work here where I'm
Right.
in risk? Or so we've got a lot of friends who are out there buying Chromebooks and IBM pads, the ThinkPads. And these guys, I think what's important about this is just pulsing your employees. We have a great HR person. Her name is Megan, and we call her our chief people officer because she takes care of our people. And she did a survey and we did a remote day 3 weeks ago before all of this got crazy. We were like, look, guys, we're going to have a remote work day. It's a test run. We want you to test your internet speed. We want you to test your computer. We want you to have a quiet place. I have sales guys who are on the phone and they've got cats in the background and guitars in the background. And, you've got to, the show must go on is my kind of standing line right now.
Yeah.
So we're giving them pop-up banners and so they can do video calls and have some semblance of company.
Oh, that's a nice idea. Yeah. They can put it up behind them.
Yeah.
Really
and then, yes, there's a cat there, or maybe the kids. I don't know if you saw that video, the guy's on BBC and his daughter runs in the room and starts dancing on camera, like
Yeah.
that's my 7-year old. Like I have a 7-year
Yeah.
old who that's all she's going to do if she gets a chance to bust into my office right now.
At 7, you hope they have their pants on.
Well, we're not on camera right now. No, that's, what's funny. That's another piece of it. This whole working remote, I still get up early in the morning. I'm still exercising. I still have my morning routine. I'm still showering, doing my hair. I'm putting on regular work clothes. I'm the thing about working remote is you can't treat it any different than showing up at an office. And I
Yeah.
come and sit down at 8 o'clock every single morning because that's the culture at my company,
It's funny. So when I work from home, and before all this, I traveled and then I work from home, and I have a formal office, but I rarely go into it. And now it's getting no love at all. But I would always dress well from the top up. So I would wear a nice shirt or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then I might wear shorts or sweatpants depending on the weather. But I often work at home. I would not. I would do all the other things you'd say. My morning routine, shower, exercise, that kind of thing. And then, but the attire might be like sweatpants with a nice shirt.
Yeah. I mean,
But that does get to be a problem as you if you're on a extended video call and you get up and you move around and that kind of thing. And I love the thought of having a backdrop or an appropriate place, thinking about how, if you're going to be on camera a lot, having your seating position be lit so that people can see your face.
Yeah, for sure. In fact,
not the bright window behind you.
Right. Well, and here, I mean, just some basic psychology. I mean, when you're on the phone with somebody, the understanding level is 37%. If you send an email, it's like 14%. When you're face to face, you get it up to a whopping 50%. Like it's 49% of the time you can be understood clearly, where there's not some misunderstanding in a directive or an interaction or a mutual commitment. Well, if you're in remote work, and you've been in it like we have for 13 years, it's just standard operating procedure for us to be on video when we're having a conversation of any merit, right?
Right.
And so but normal people haven't had to do that before. So it's really imperative that you get face to face when you're having, important conversations. And, the same rules exist. Let people finish, make sure you ask a lot of questions. Being remote doesn't change the fact that we're all human.
Yeah. Feeling very human right now. So talk about the check-in. How do you check in on your people? I used to, I'd have set times in my day where I'd be prompted to go walk around and go check in. And what are people doing? And how's it going? And what's the vibe? How do you do that when you're remote?
I love it. Management by walking around.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Well, in the virtual world, there's not a lot of difference. I'll tell you, I have a list. I call it, most people have a to-do list. I actually have a to dominate list. I know that sounds kind of crazy to some, but in this changing market, in order to win as a leader, and I talked about this again today, you have to have a CEO mindset. And that means adding value to people, staying empathetic, understanding what they're up to, managing emotions. And literally, I have a list of all my managers, everybody who's revenue generation for our business, everybody who's in our marketing, developing leads for the business. And I'm just touching base with them or making sure their managers are touching base. This is a very 9/11 was really a scary time. 2007 was a scary time. But all in 1 week, the entire world has gone remote. And as a leader, the most important thing you can do is just communicate. We're sending daily communications out, and people should not slow down the communication, but they should up it.
Yeah, I got a message the other day from my gardener who said he'd be working via Zoom video conference for the next few months.
What's funny is my wife and I were talking about, oh, does this mean we have to clean our own house like over the weekend? Does this, I mean,
Yeah.
are we, and so,
Oh, horrors.
yes, the horrors. But, the good news is I think most companies, and I don't know if you saw that, there's a report, I think it was JP Morgan or one of the large investment groups put a report out about most businesses have about 29 days of operating capital in the bank right now.
Yeah.
And so you start thinking about, well, how many of those companies are going to stay strong, the ones that are going to get through this and weather this are the ones with strong leaders who communicate at a high level, the people who are increasing their marketing budget, increasing their client, conversations, adding value to the marketplace. These are the folks that are going to walk away from this scenario with more market share than the competition.
Yeah, interesting. I think you're right. When things pivot, as long as you can respond and be flexible, you can come out on top. And it includes not everything, maybe, but many things. And I've been speaking to people in restaurants and other business that have pivoted quickly to delivery service, right?
Yeah.
And one that I think was really great in the Arizona area that is using their own staff to deliver instead of the delivery services. So they're employing or engaging most of, if not all of their team.
Yeah.
Instead of laying off the front of the house while they keep the back of the house employed, and usually have more staff in the front than the back. So.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's another, that's wwhy when we first started, you said, what are the considerations? One of the big considerations as an employer is our civic duty, to keep our people employed. Our country is going to survive this. We're going to come out fine. What's going to happen is we're going to have all of a sudden the realities of pandemic and these biohazards being part of our normal life. And I think moving forward, you're going to see a government that strengthens their institutions and infrastructure in order to handle these things, because now we're kind of caught with our biohazard down, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, things are going to change for sure. And it's hard to predict what exactly, but the first thing is just learning to deal in this new environment. Even whether it's short-term or long-term is hard to say at this point. Some people are calling this a very long work from home, but others are saying it could be. So we don't know. But you got to deal with it here and now if you're going to continue operations. If you want to learn more about Daniel's company or his work, you can find him at MyOutDesk.com. MyOutDesk.com. And we will put a link to a download of your ebook into the show notes as well, so people can go figure that out and get that there, and with lots of tips about outsourcing, going virtual, taking your staff, getting your team remote, and so on, with more detail, obviously, than we can cover in the show. I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all this with us.
Yeah, Bill, it's been my pleasure. And if you're listening right now and you want to go remote, we've got salespeople standing by who aren't selling right now, but are helping businesses like your audience just with step-by-step guides of how to use Zoom, for instance. And what does it mean to set up a instant chat feature that everybody's on? So if you're out there, we want to do our part in the community, and we'd be happy to help you through this transition time.
Thanks so much, Daniel Ramsey, MyOutDesk.com. We'll talk to everyone again soon.
Thanks, Bill.
If this show helped you, please share it with somebody else right now so they can get all the benefits that you got. Like it and subscribe wherever you got it to get them every week. You can also email us with any feedback, questions, concerns, or comments to info@scalingcoach.com. I want to give special thanks to Vern Harnish, the author and creator of the Scaling Up Framework. This show is produced by Lucy Summers. The audio was edited by Albert Burge at Podfly Productions, and the show notes were written by Ayn Kudina with proofreading by Tim McGowan. Thanks again for listening, and keep scaling up.